when Nicholas Negroponte and a former MIT president, Jerry Wiesner, sort of launched it back in the late 70s, early 1980s, was to study the convergence of three historically separate industries: that of computing, content, communication. Right? That was personal computers and mainframe computers. That was telephones, telegraphs. That was television, movie making. Totally separate worlds at that time. And yet they were beginning to come together, and the lab was founded to study that coming together, to study it so that people who were participants, financiers, the sponsors of the lab, could see the future first. Now that was a big idea, and in fact, in many ways, it's an achieved idea. Those industries are now converged. We have digital telephones that allow you to do various computational things and have content delivered on the phone. Right? All those things have now arrived. So this is a lab that's had to reinvent itself several times over since its founding in the mid-'80s through today, 24 years later. And just to give you a taste for some of the new directions of the lab, you have faculty like Cynthia Brazil and Hugh Hare, who are roboticists. So Hugh Hare's labs are here in the basement. He runs the biomechatronics group, which is all about next generation prosthetics of bodies. So it's sort of the medium is between us and our physical assistive devices. In the case of Cynthia Brazil, she runs the robotic life group, where it seems like a robot as a storyteller, or it's robot as coach. In fact, one of her fairly recent graduate students finished is Corey Kidd, who when he did his research, he looked at the use of a robot as a coach bot, in particular to help people stick with their weight loss program. So think of a friendly robot that's encouraging you to not eat or to be good in your habits. So it turns out it was an interesting idea, a good idea. I did well with his thesis, and a very entrepreneurial guy. He and his wife moved to Hong Kong to start a business to commercialize his thesis. A business called Intuitive Automata. And that's one of many different both corporate ventures and spin-off companies and new product lines that have bubbled up from the Media Lab over the years. But that's just one example of a relatively new emergent area within the lab. But there are others. Professor Ed Boyd runs the synthetic neurobiology group upstairs. His idea of future media is the ever more direct connection between us and our control of our brains or our nerves, right? through invasive as well as non-invasive means. You've got faculty like Leah Beakley, who runs the high-low-tech group. She's interested in looking at traditional skills, crafts, weaving, embroidery, painting, and their cross connection with the more high-tech skills of the electronicists, or to building things like electroactive clothing, or using these electroactive paints in a way that provides a compelling function, a compelling service. Now, there are also many more classic groups within the lab. One of the longtime faculty members, Mitch Resnick, runs the Lifelong Kindergarten program. So that's about computers and kids. And that's everything has had consequences in the world. For instance, y'all know about Legos, I hope. Well, Lego Mindstorms, the robotics control system that helps kids play with their first robot, was something originally born here in Professor Resnick's group at the lab, and was spun out as a corporate venture within Lego. And it's not just that. Playful Invention Company was spun out as an independent company. One of the more recent things here is a product line called Scratch, which is sort of pick-and-place software. Kids programming by dragging and dropping functionality on a screen. Open source, available online. Look for Scratch, the word, it'll come up. Also in this space, especially you all, given your interest in product design and development, is what's immediately visible through the window. That's the Smart Cities group, Professor Bill Mitchell's effort. And it turns out that while he's an architect, in fact, was formerly dean of the School of Architecture and Planning, which this lab is part of, but it turns out his group has become especially interested in next-generation transportation in cities. So this is where the city car came from. And following the city car, some of his students said, listen, you know what, these ideas of electric motors inside wheels that allow the wheels to be independently driven and actuated, many of the ideas they had for a new car design is, well, maybe let's simplify this and turn it into a robo-scooter, which in fact is sitting here folded up right in in the front of that whole group area. And then they said, well, geez, you know, that's a good idea. Electric scooter. Why don't we simplify even further? Let's make a electric motor in the hub of a bicycle wheel so that we can retrofit that electric green wheel onto a normal-looking bike and turn it into an electric-assisted vehicle. And in fact, you can see a photo of that. It's actually a photo